Production notes, estimated runtime, 8 to 9 minutes at a warm, unhurried pace. Main voice, Lori's authorized cloned voice. Secondary voice, warm, thoughtful AI voice used for the opening and closing doorway motif. Visual direction, slow movement through the story world's cover, book pages, atmospheric landscapes, and genre-neutral reading imagery. Music, original or properly licensed cinematic underscore, restrained piano, low strings, and soft atmospheric texture AI disclosure. Spoken near the beginning and included in the show notes, final script production cue. Begin with 3 seconds of page-turning sound. Fade in a warm cinematic music bed. On screen, a closed book in darkness. A thin line of gold appears around its edges. Secondary voice. Some doors are made of wood and iron, others are made of paper and ink. Production cue. The book opens. The story world's title appears slowly, followed by the J.L. Collins publishing name. Lori. Welcome to Story Worlds from J.L. Collins Publishing, the podcast where every book opens a door. Lori. I'm Lori Collins, and each week we'll step beyond the cover to explore the worlds, characters, questions, and creative sparks that make stories worth entering. Lori. Before we begin, a quick note about how this show is made. This episode was produced with AI-assisted tools, including an authorized digital version of my voice. The ideas, direction, and final approval come from J.L. Collins Publishing. Production cue. Music settles into a gentle pulse. Visuals move from the open book portal into several distinct landscapes. Moonlit towers, city lights, a winding road, and stars. Lori. Think about the last book that completely pulled you in. Maybe you opened it expecting to read 1 chapter, and the next time you looked at the clock, an hour had disappeared. Maybe you carried the characters with you through the rest of the day. Maybe a place that never existed began to feel as real as your own neighborhood. Lori, that is the quiet magic at the center of reading. A book can be small enough to hold in 2 hands, yet large enough to contain an entire world. Lori, and a story world is more than a map. It is a set of rules, pressures, promises, and possibilities. It can be a kingdom shaped by magic, a city shaped by secrets, a small town shaped by memory, or a relationship shaped by everything 2 people are afraid to say. Lori. The world becomes believable when it asks something of the people inside it. Who will they become here? What will they risk? What will they protect? What happens when the life they understand is no longer enough? Production cue. Show 4 slow visual transitions. A sealed envelope, 2 figures separated by a doorway, an impossible horizon, and a warm room filled with laughter. Lori. Sometimes the doorway is a question. A letter arrives with no return address. A person disappears. A promise is broken. The reader steps through because there is something on the other side that must be understood. Lori. In a mystery or suspense story, the door may open with uncertainty. We know something is wrong before we know why. Each clue changes the shape of the room, and every answer reveals another passage. The pleasure comes from moving through the dark with just enough light to keep going. Lori. In romance, the doorway is often another person. The world changes because 2 lives have moved close enough to affect each other. Attraction may invite them in, but vulnerability raises the stakes. The real question is not simply whether love appears. It is whether the characters will become brave enough to recognize it, trust it, and choose it. Lori. In fantasy or supernatural fiction, the door can be literal, a hidden realm, a forbidden power, a creature that should not exist. Yet wonder works best when it touches something human. We may be looking at magic, but we are still asking familiar questions about belonging, sacrifice, identity, and the price of power. Lori. And sometimes humor opens the door by lowering our guard. A sharp observation or impossible situation makes us laugh, and then the story slips in something honest. Different genres create different entrances, but the strongest stories give us a reason to cross the threshold and a reason to care whether we ever find our way back. Production cue, brief musical lift. Show close details. A key, a rain-dark street, a handwritten letter, a distant lit window. Avoid showing recognizable copyrighted book covers unless they are JLCP titles approved for use. Lori, at J.L. Collins Publishing, our shelves lead in more than one direction. Some doors open onto romance and desire, some lead toward mystery, danger, or the supernatural. Some invite us into humor, heart, or the kind of suspense that makes it impossible to stop reading at the end of a chapter. Lori, those stories may wear different costumes, but the invitation is the same. Come closer. Care about what happens next. Lori, that invitation matters because readers are not passive visitors. We bring our own memories, fears, hopes, and questions into every book. Two people can read the same scene and notice entirely different things. One sees the romance. Another sees the risk. One trusts the charming stranger. Another is already looking for the hidden knife. Lori, the author builds the doorway, but the reader completes the world. Production cue, let the music breathe for one beat after the previous line, then shift to warmer visuals, reading chair, lamp glow, pages moving in a light breeze. Lori, that is what this podcast will celebrate. Not only finished books, but the experience around them. Why a character stays with us. How a setting changes the emotional temperature of a scene. Why certain villains are impossible to ignore. And how one creative spark becomes a story someone else can step into. Lori. We'll also look behind the page. Where do story ideas come from? How does a series become a place readers want to revisit? What makes one book the right book for a particular mood? And how does a manuscript travel from its earliest form to a finished edition waiting on a shelf? Lori. Some episodes will focus on a single storytelling idea. Others will introduce a J.L. Collins Publishing book, author, character, or series. We'll keep major surprises protected. The goal is not to tell you the whole story, it is to help you decide which door you want to open next. Production cue. On screen. The words, "Every book opens a door in antique gold." Follow with a simple montage of several unbranded book spines and the J.L. Collins Publishing mark. Lori. And because J.L. Collins Publishing includes many voices and kinds of stories, this show gives us one place to connect them. A suspense reader may discover a supernatural story with the same emotional intensity. A romance reader may find a mystery driven by a relationship they cannot stop thinking about. A reader who came for magic may stay for the humor. Lori, discovery is one of the best parts of reading. You think you know what you are looking for, and then a completely different book finds you. Lori. So here is a question to carry into your week. What do you want your next story world to make you feel? Do you want to be comforted, surprised, unsettled, swept away, or reminded that courage can appear in unexpected places? Lori, that feeling is often a better guide than a genre label. Start there, and the right doorway becomes easier to recognize. Production cue. Music begins a gentle rise. Return to the cover art doorway now glowing more brightly. Lori. In our next episode, we'll explore why some characters refuse to leave us long after the final page. We'll look at the choices, contradictions, and emotional stakes that turn a fictional person into someone a reader remembers. Lori. If you enjoyed this first visit, follow Story Worlds from J.L. Collins Publishing on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe on YouTube. You can also visit J.L. Collins Publishing online to discover books, authors, and your next world to enter. Secondary voice. Every book opens a door. Which one will you choose? Lori. Until next time, happy reading. Production cue. Hold the Story Worlds cover for 5 seconds. Fade music and image together. End card. Story Worlds from J.L. Collins Publishing. AI-assisted production disclosed in episode notes. Suggested episode description. Every book opens a door. In the first episode of Story Worlds from J.L. Collins Publishing, Lori Collins explores how a book can contain an entire world and how readers help complete it. Discover what this new weekly show will explore. From unforgettable characters and powerful settings to author inspiration, publishing discoveries, and finding the right story for your mood. This episode was produced with AI-assisted tools, including an authorized digital version of Lori Collins' voice. Suggested call to action links: J.L. Collins Publishing website or storefront, YouTube podcast playlist, Spotify show page, newsletter sign-up page, featured books or author pages mentioned in the episode pre-production review. Confirm the official website, storefront URL, and replace the spoken generic reference if desired. Confirm pronunciation for J.L. Collins Publishing and any added author, title, series, or place names. Use only original, licensed, or JLCP-owned music, footage, covers, and illustrations. Review the final voice render for natural pauses, emphasis, and correct disclosure wording. Verify captions and transcript before making the video public. HeyGen assembly notes. Build the master episode in 16:9 landscape at 1080p for YouTube and Spotify video. Use Lori's authorized cloned voice for all Lori lines and the secondary voice only where marked. Use the Story Worlds cover for the opening, closing, and thumbnail unless a later episode-specific thumbnail is approved. Keep visual movements slow and readable. Avoid rapid cuts that compete with the narration. Export the final MP4 and retain a clean audio master for directory or archival use. Approval status prepared for Lori's content review. Nothing in this package has been published or scheduled.